very warm welcome to you, Jenny. We are absolutely delighted to have you here with us. I would need to check, but I think that between you and one other person, you might hold the record for working with us the longest.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
So needless to say, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to have you involved in this series and have you chat with us. So in order for everybody to have an understanding of how you came to do what you do with us, can you give people a brief introduction about your background and what gave you the ability to come and work with us as one of our Night Nanny team?
Okay, so one of the main reasons that I was looking for something was I was working as a pediatric nurse, and I was doing mainly children with special needs, and I was working a lot of nights and a lot of days, and I really felt that working for the employer that I was working for at the time, my time wasn't my own. And the other thing was I wanted to get back to working with tiny babies. And so I recognized I was no longer feeling fulfilled in the job that I was doing, and that I just needed to move on and maybe do something else. And so while I was on social media one day, I came across an ad for the New Mummy Company. And here I am.
And we're very glad that you did. What is, and I know it's going to be hard to pin it down, so you don't necessarily have to pin it down to one thing, but what is sort of the top thing that you enjoy most about working with our families?
When I meet a new family and mum is so beside herself because she doesn't know what to do with this little person. And then by the end of the contract, mum is so empowered. I watch mum move from novice to expert in a really short space of time, generally over about a 12-week span. That just is so comforting to me. It's rewarding, right?
Yeah. And it makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside because you know that once she's learned those skills that she'll have them forever. Yeah. So if a parent was watching this and they were thinking about having a night nanny, but they're a little unsure, and like you mentioned, there is that element of bringing a stranger into their home, what would you say to them about reconsidering and thinking about just even investigating it further?
Okay, so what I would say to that parent, one of the things I like about the New Mummy Company is how transparent they are. And the fact that new parents who've never used the service before, they have access to parents that we have worked with in the past. So a good example for me was that one of the contracts that I'm just finishing got she got a reference from one of my previous contracts that I worked with through the New Mummy Company. And that reference, she said, Jenny, I have to read this reference for you. And when she read it to me, she says, even before you came through the door, we knew that we wanted you. Because this reference is, she said, if you are this person that's in this reference, then we want you. So what I would say to the parents, do your due diligence, right? There's nothing better, I believe, than word of mouth. It doesn't matter what my credentials are. Forget about my credentials. Speak to other parents. And ask them what was their experience. Ask them, would they do it again? I think that in itself will speak volumes and put their mind at rest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What is your favorite thing overall in working with us?
I like the fact that basically all the groundwork's already done, right? I don't have to go out and look for work. It's always available. It's for me to decide, do I want it or don't I? So I like the fact that for me, the New Mummy Company has been a blessing in my life. I haven't actually been out of work, even though this year has been a difficult time for everyone. I still haven't been out of work. It's just been, for me, if you can have your revenue stream continue even in difficult times, that's actually huge, right? Because many companies weren't able to
No.
maintain their employees, right? And so if a company can maintain their employees, that's huge. And what that says about the company is that they're in high demand. So
Yes, and as you know, because you see all the jobs that we have got recently and over the last few months, we're quite honestly busier than excuse me, than we've probably ever been. And we're simply putting that down to the fact that families don't have their own family support. And it shows you just how important and how much new parents rely on support that generally comes from that village of their own family and their own
yeah,
support network. And when that isn't an option, then it's been a true honor for us to be that support system for them. Because as we know, becoming a new parent is not a walk in the park, and that village is very much needed.
right.
So if someone was thinking about coming to work with us, Jenny, but they weren't sure about whether the company is what we claim to be, or are we sort of a fly-by-night company? Are we going to actually pay our team? You know, sort of those kind of questions. What would you say to them?
What would I personally say to them? I would steal Nike's slogan, and I would say, just do it.
Okay, so I think in that sense, you would be happy to
I mean,
tell
the
people.
reference I give the company, like if anyone was to ask me, look, I don't think personally, obviously I haven't worked for every company in Canada, but I don't believe that there is a better company to work for out there. Not as far as being a night nanny is concerned. I believe that this company is exemplary. So I haven't looked to work for another company since I've been working for the New Mummy Company, and that in itself speaks volumes.
Oh, Jenny, you've just made my whole entire day. Thank you. So when you are going forward and you're seeing the new positions, what is it that you look for when you are being made aware of the new positions that we have with new families? Is there something in particular that you look for, or do you wait for the interview? What seals the deal in sort of piquing your interest?
One of the things that I am particularly drawn to when I read any contract, and even a contract that would probably have me saying, um, my mind will be saying no, but my heart just screams yes. I particularly look for the contracts where mum's really struggling, where there might be some postpartum depression, some postpartum anxiety. Maybe mum had a really bad experience the first time round and is looking for some support the second time round. Those absolutely appeal to me. They really do. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's of course where you can get that true job satisfaction
Yeah.
feeling, right?
Yeah. Because I mean, getting those mums to settle down and go to sleep and not come in 100 times a night to make sure their baby's alive is absolutely huge.
When parents hire you and it's in the very early stages, what do you think is sort of the biggest bonus or the biggest surprise benefit that they get from hiring somebody like you?
I think that one of the things that most parents have said to me about myself is that considering that I come with the knowledge that I do come with, they find me very easy to talk to, and I don't overpower them with the way I think it should be done. We work together in finding common ground that's best for the baby. And that's been said to me over and over and over again. So I think that must be true of my personality, that in spite of my credentials, they find me very down to earth and a good laugh.
Have you had any very weird or wonderful situations happen to you that you were not expecting?
Yes.
Any of them we can talk about?
um, It's like some parents want things that are not necessarily in line with the way we practice or that's new. But what I've found out is that in taking care of newborns, you can't go in there with a black and white mentality, right? There are shades of gray, and you can overcome every um, where there might be a disagreement in terms of, like, one example I can think of, one of the first families I worked for, mum insisted in putting her baby to sleep on tummy. And I said, but that's not within our guidelines, and it's not the best sleep position, and it's not safe. But rather than getting into an argument with a mum that was hormonal, I said, okay, let's do this. I will allow baby to fall asleep on his tummy. And when he's in a deep sleep, I'm going to flip him over onto his back. How does that sound? And we never discussed it again. And so her baby was allowed to fall asleep on his tummy. And then I would turn him over onto his back to make sure he was safe. So there's things like that. There was another family that with twins that didn't want me using wipes. They wanted the baby to be washed under running water every single time there was uh, a diaper change required. And at first I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be horrendous. But, you know, we set up a station by the sink and we did it that way. And I think it was great. Those children never got a diaper rash, right? So was it more work? It was more work. It was a different way of doing it. But for me, I learned something new, that there isn't just one way to skin a cat. There's several ways to skin a cat. And I think that if we can go into someone's domain and find synergy and harmony to work with the family, instead of saying, nope, this is how we do it, ABC. If we can work with them, and just at the end of the day, the bottom line is the baby's safety. We've got to keep the baby safe, right? If we can think that way, it makes life so much easier. It makes parents more relaxed. I had a mother that before the contract started, she sent me an A4 page full of instructions of how to take care of the baby. And on the day, my first night there, she said, "You must think I'm so weird." And I said, "No, I don't think you're weird. I just think you're an A-type personality and you're a very concerned mum and you have things, you want it done a particular way. And I actually don't have a problem with that." So that governed the rest of our relationship, because she found that, you know, Jenny's going to be flexible. She's going to work. She's going to do it the way that I want it done. And the only time I won't do it the way that a parent wants it done is if I feel that it puts baby at risk. And once I explain to them that this is the reason I don't want to do it that way, ABC, I haven't had a problem. I just haven't had a problem.
Well, and for that, I'm sure the parents are very grateful that you understand their wishes and respect their wishes, but that ultimately you're not willing to put the baby at risk, even though that's what they have requested. And
Yeah.
I thank you for that too.
Actually, Maria, another story that I'd like to tell, because I believe this is huge. There was a mother that I went to, and she had postpartum anxiety. But even though she had postpartum anxiety, she felt she needed to be the one that does everything for the baby. She just didn't trust her husband. And I sat down one night and I said to her, "Do you realize how important it is that fathers get to bond with their babies? It isn't just about mums bonding. It's dad can be a very important aspect of the relationship." And she said, "But how can dad bond with the baby if I'm breastfeeding?" I said, "It's simple. All you need to do, you need to pump. And once a day, every day, it's dad's responsibility at a certain time to give that bottle." And so they did that. She took my advice and they did that. And dad's time was 4 o'clock, because that was the time he was done work. So it was his time to feed the baby and help with bath time. And for their relationship, and I don't mean dad and baby's relationship, I mean dad and mum's relationship, that was huge. So I think that it's really important that nursing mums know that it's important for dad to be a part of the bonding process, and that they can feel okay to hand their baby off at a certain time in the day, take a break, and let dad feed a bottle.
Yeah, very, very important. We've actually done another YouTube video on that exact topic about how to get dads involved. And you're so right. It's very important for the pressure to be taken off mom to be available and on for every feed in 24 hours. But it is absolutely essential for dads to be able to build that relationship and build that bond, and for them to take over specific duties. And if that's as simple as doing the diaper change and the burping, then so be it, because it becomes their duty and their responsibility and their time. And yes, as women, and a pretty type A personality myself, I know that if I do it, I'll be faster and I'll be better. But that doesn't mean that it's the right way to do it, because you're depriving the dad of the opportunity to bond. And it is so important that that baby and that dad can bond. So yes, some skin to skin time and the diaper changes and the bathing. Even have dad get in the bath and take baby into the bath with him. Like there's so many ways that you can bond with your baby. And it is really important. But yes, I'm so glad that you brought it up, because yes, the relationship between mom and dad will benefit as a result of being able to level the workload and give mom some respite and give her the opportunity to have that time to take a nap or take a shower or, just read a book, whatever it is. It is very important, because then we all feel like we're carrying our weight and we're all contributing, rather than resentment building up to I'm doing it all. He doesn't do anything. And of course, that's putting strain on relationships. And bringing a new baby, as I know you're aware, bringing a baby into a house puts a strain on every single relationship, no matter how rock solid you are. And it is important for you to find ways as a couple. And so, thank you for helping them to navigate that situation. So you've been with us for a while, Jenny. Do you still find people surprised when you tell them what you do, or sort of looking at you as if to say, wow, I didn't know that existed? Do people still get surprised or unsure about what your role is?
Yeah, people are unsure of my role. They don't understand why a nurse with my credentials would want to sit in their home and take care of their child and actually enjoy doing it. and so many people, so many second-time moms say this to me: if the company got $100 for every time a client says this, with all the advertising, we'd be millionaires. They say, I wish I knew this service existed the first time round. Like, so many clients actually still say that to me. Like, it's like, I see it advertised, but maybe it's because I'm looking for it and I know what it is. Maybe when you don't know what it is, it's easy to just not see the advert, right? I don't know. I don't understand why people don't know that it exists. But I hear doctors say, I didn't know this exists. I hear mothers say, I didn't know this existed. So, and I know that you advertise because I see your adverts.
Jenny, thank you so much for joining us. I can't tell you how much I've appreciated and loved talking to you. And we hope that you will reach out to us if you have any questions about any of our services.
Absolutely.
And we wish you all a wonderful day. And from Jenny and me, it's goodbye for now.